Have you ever felt that after a certain age it seems that you become invisible? As if the world silently decided that your words are worth less, your gestures have less weight, and your presence almost no marks? The question no one asks loud, but everyone carries in the chest is, when respect started to flee, and why? There is a cruel illusion being sold out there that respect comes with time, but time alone does not bring honor, only age. What if I said that there are people with 70 years being treated as if they had 10, while others with 60 make crowds silence only with their eyes? It is not a loud voice or an imposed authority. It's something more subtle and much more powerful. The truth is that respect is a silent dance between presence and absence, between what you show and what you never need to say. And there is an attitude, just one, that triggers in anyone an unconscious code of reverence. But no one talks about her, because it's uncomfortable, because it requires rupture, because once you understand there is no way to be who you were again. No matter what you have won, how many battles have won, or how many times have been ignored. What you will find out in this video has nothing to do with the past, but with the now. It is here, right now, that something can change. But beware. We are not talking about quick tips or formulas. We are talking about a cut. An internal gesture that transforms you into something the world can no longer ignore. So if you have tired of being kind and being ignored, if you have tried to be understanding and received silence, if you have shouted and only heard the echo, maybe now it's time to shut up and hear. Because what is about to be revealed is not just an attitude, it is a mirror, and not everyone is ready to really be seen. There is an invisible trap that silently swallows men and women after the 60s, the desperate attempt to continue pleasing to be accepted. You smile, give in, avoid conflict, offers advice with the hope of being heard, but the gentle one you become, the less you see you. Respect is not lost over time. It dissolves in unaware concessions. And every okay said against the will is an extra brick in the wall of irrelevance. Most do not realize, but there is something cruelly childish in search of being loved by all. As if, even with decades on the back, the heart still begged to be validated as a child waiting for approval. But respect, true respect, it is not born of acceptance. It is born of the rupture. From when you finally abandon the need to be understood and becomes whole, even if it costs the sympathy of others. This is exactly where most fail. They want to be respected without ever having bothered. They want children to hear, friends to admire, that strangers pay attention, never having become a real contrast in the environment. But the world does not respect what is predictable. He respects what is solid. And solidity often sounds like discomfort for those who got used to seeing you silent. There is a silent dignity in those who do not need to explain too much. A hidden force in those who do not try to convince anyone. When you stop justifying your existence, when you stop shrink to fit the spaces of others, something changes in the air. People start to weigh their words near you. They start listening more carefully. Not because you scream, but because your presence now screams for yourself. And here is the hidden key. Respect is the reflection of the clarity you have about yourself. It is not about screaming to the world that you deserve something. It is about acting as who knows intimately. It is already. The only attitude capable of provoking this kind of response to others. It starts when you break with your own need for permission. And whoever does this is never ignored again. Many confuse respect for fear. They think that, to be taken seriously, they need to harden the tone, raise their voice, impose presence with aggressiveness. But this is just the mask of despair, an empty attempt to control the eyes of others when no more reflection is controlled. True respect is not imposed, it emanates. And this energy is only born when you become non-negotiable internally. The problem is that for years you have learned to adapt, swallowing words to maintain peace, disguising disappointments with smiles, silent so as not to displease. This constant adaptation, over time, steals the sharpness of its outline. And when you become diffuse, others cross you as if you are just part of the scenario. Being respected requires recovering your border, the sacred limit where you end and the world begins. This edge only reappears when you decide without warning the standard. When, instead of again silent, you remain silent, but a different silence, a silence that weighs. When instead of giving in to education, you just look and don't move. These invisible gestures create magnetic tension because the world is used to you fluid, not firm. And it is in this firmness that the new treatment is born. Those who position themselves without explaining creates a presence that precedes any word. And those who have presence need not ask for space. Space is organized around. There is something almost ancestral about it, as if the collective unconscious recognized in his posture a sign of leadership, even if you don't want to lead anyone. It is not about external power. It is about internal territory conquered. And perhaps the greatest irony is this: by stopping trying to be respected, you finally are. Because respect does not come from outside. It just echoes what already vibrates within you. When this vibration stabilizes, the whole world responds. Those who mocked silence. Those who ignored notice. Those who mandated hesitate. And all this starts when you decide. Stop asking license to exist. Perhaps what hurt the most after the 60s is not loneliness, but the feeling of not being taken seriously anymore, as if your voice had been behind, at a time when they still listened to you with respect. But what few realize is that the world has not suddenly silenced you. He just responded to how much you began to silence inside. And each time you doubted your value, someone confirmed this doubt with the look. The disrespect wound doesn't start out. It starts the moment you believe you need to explain yourself to be accepted. That needs to do more, talk better, be useful for deserving attention. But no one respects who puts themselves as proof that it is still worthy. True respect is born when you no longer need to prove, because it has simply become living proof of what you believe. And here is the point that many do not want to face. Maybe you were too kind to whom it deserved distance, too loyal with whom he would trade you in silence, too available to those who have never prioritized you. And this excessive donation creates an invisible debt, not on others, but in you. Because each time you deliver more than you should, a part of yours begins to disappear. The attitude that rebuilds respect begins with a silent refusal, the refusal to continue to decrease to fit in the pocket of those who do not want to carry you for real. This refusal doesn't have to be violent, but it needs to be definitive. A small gesture, a clear limit, a no said with your eyes, and the world begins to recalibrate your perception of you. Because those who are reverence for force, others to do the same. And when you assume this new inside place, something changes even in your walk. The body gains another posture. Speech becomes slower, denser. The look doesn't ask, he says. And without realizing it, you begin to command not with authority but coherence. Because nothing is more magnetic than someone who stopped acting and began to be. There is a moment in life when you realize it is no longer about being understood. It's about being whole. And this change, subtle, almost imperceptible, transforms the way the world treats you. Because while you are trying to fit, there will always be someone willing to tighten you. But when you decide not to bend anymore, who wants to stay? Will have to stretch until you reach you. The great tragedy of poor maturity is this: amazing people who exchange their essence for acceptance, who learn to smile as they bleed, serving as they wither, to endure as they disappeared. And now, they look back and ask themselves, where did I leave my name? The answer is often hidden in the small moments when they said yes when everything inside shouted no. Disan? But there is a detail that changes everything. It's never too late. It is never too late to recover the tone of voice you let out, the brightness in the look you have allowed to erase, the dignity that was spent on behalf of a peace that never came. And when you make this silent decision to return to you, the scared world, it begins to reconsider you. Because there is something deeply impactful in someone who reconciles himself. This kind of presence does not need spotlight. You don't need presentations. Just enter an environment, and without saying anything, the conversations change their tone. People straighten in the chairs. The looks turn, even unknowingly why. It is as if your now restored soul would create gravity, and all around, people, words, attitudes, starts to orbit with more respect. You no longer need speeches or explanations, just need to dwell your truth. And when you do that, a silent magic happens. Disrespect becomes impossible. Not because the world has changed, but because you have become someone the world simply can no longer ignore. The attitude that makes anyone respect you after the 60 is not visible to the eyes. She is not learned in books, nor is he taught with words. She is forged in the silence of the days when you got tired of waiting for recognition and decided to recognize yourself. It is an internal gesture, almost mystical, from those who finally understand that it should no longer be accepted, but assumed. At this moment, all that once seemed weakness becomes strength. The wrinkles tell stories. The breaks gain weight. Calm down, before confused with passivity, now imposes presence. It is as if time before your enemy began to work in your favor, because now he does not age. He consecrates you. And who sees you feels that, even without knowing why. But this attitude requires something rare: courage to disappoint. Courage not to meet the expectations they created about you. Courage to be seen, not as they expected, but as you really are. And this courage, she doesn't shout, she whispers. Whisper with the firmness of those who have seen too much to shake with little. True respect is not born of fear or admiration. He is born of recognition. And it is only recognized who is full, who does not bend by compliments, nor breaks down by criticism. Whoever walks at their own pace, even if everyone is running in the opposite direction. And when you find this rhythm, this invisible compass that comes from within, the world too, and here. Because deep down we all feel when we are facing someone who should not interrupt. Someone who, without saying, said everything. Someone who simply exists in full, reminds us of the part of us that is still fragmented. And that's exactly why they respect, not out of fear, but for awakening. In the end, what you always sought out, attention, listens, reverence, only began to emerge when you stopped begging, when he decided that he no longer needed to be understood to be true, that no longer needed to be accepted to be whole. And it was precisely at this moment of silent rupture that everything changed, because the world, cruel as it is, only respects who has already learned not to need it. You are not invisible. It was just absent from you. Each concession it made, each time it went out to maintain fragile relationships, it was an extra distance between who you are and who you were being. But now, perhaps for the first time in decades, you see yourself clearly, and respect, this old desire, begins to emerge naturally, not as a prize, but as a reflection. People treat you the way you are dealing when no one is looking. And if there is a truth that can turn your life inside out today, this is this. You no longer need to convince anyone of your value. You just need to stop hiding it. Because what is whole, what is true, what vibrates coherently, this the world cannot ignore, even if you want. Perhaps this is the greatest freedom of maturity, to stop being a character in the lives of others and finally, with courage, their own stage. It is not a matter of imposing itself, but of incarnating. To inhabit yourself so firmly that, even in silence, you make yourself heard. That, even stopped, you cause movement. That, even in a noisy world, you are unmistakable. If something inside you was touched by this truth, if a part of yours whispered, "That's it," while you heard, then this video was not just content. It was a mirror. And mirrors do not serve to entertain, but to reveal. Short, comment, share, and subscribe. Not on impulse, but by recognition. Because now, more than ever, respect begins when you stop abandoning yourself.